Hi guys, Ellie here from Next Chapter Homestead. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to be working on our container garden. Let's see how far we can get. Morning everybody. So today we're going to be looking at container gardening, and I'm going to show you how to use a container similar to this to start your own garden at home. I started gardening in containers too. I had 2 pallets around the corner and we found any pots that we could and we filled them with seed and we just gave it a shot. So I'm essentially giving you the rundown of how you could start your own garden at home, even if you don't have ground to physically grow in. So I've chosen these containers specifically because they come in a variety of different colors and you can choose what you want to suit your personal aesthetic. So what I've got here is a container, and it does have soil in it currently from what was growing in here before. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a layer of compost in and mix it up, and then we're going to actually start planting this, and I'm going to look at the different kind of plants you can plant in a container like this. These containers are easy for us to find in our local neighborhood. We've got a large bulk plastic store that sells them. They're not overly priced. They are a little bit pricey. You could do it for slightly cheaper, but I like the way this looks. So I went for these because I wanted the color pots. I've bought myself some compost that I'm just going to top this pot with. One of my big tips for container gardening is do spend a little bit of money when you purchase your soil, so that you know that you're getting a quality product, because this is your growing medium. So you want your soil to be as healthy as possible when you start, because that already helps you ward off certain diseases and pests. And if you've got strong plants, they're able to withstand that a little bit better. And since you are confined to this area and the plants do suck up the nutrients within the container itself, you have to be wary when you're starting a container garden. You've got to understand that you're going to be amending your soil at least seasonally to ensure that your plants can constantly take what they need from the ground, because all good growing starts with good soil. And even though this looks fairly full, I'm actually going to put another layer of compost on the top, because as you water it, the soil will compact and sink down. Right, now that you've got a container and you've got your soil ready, it's time to look at what plants you want to grow. I recently visited our local nursery and I purchased some starts. I bought a parsley and I also bought a mustard green. However, your mustard greens shouldn't look like this. This is not the nursery's fault. This is the chickens' fault. They got into the potted garden and decided to have a little bit of a snack. It is a lot like a spinach, but it's slightly spicier. And then as the leaves get larger, they get little spines on the back that can be quite prickly, but they do come off when you cook and when you wash your vegetable. Our nursery is amazing in the sense that they sell individual plants like this, and if you are planting in a container garden and for a smallish space, it is a fantastic option. I think it's 15 Rand for a start like this, and you get an individual start. You don't have to pay for a tray of 6 where you don't necessarily have the space for that. Yes, it is pricey to pay 15 Rand for some parsley, but they are perpetual. You will get multiple harvests off of them, so in the long run it does work out. Herbs are also a very good place to start. Okay, what I like to do when I start planting is I take my pot and I press it down into the soil and I create somewhat of a cavity. So now I know this is more or less the size of the hole that I require to plant my parsley in. So I'm just going to dig it out slightly and move the soil over. Remove your plant from the pot itself. As you can see, it's starting to get a little bit, but it's far from root bound, so I'm just going to tease the soil a little bit. Plant my parsley in, hold the leaves together, and then backfill. Press it down just so that it's a little bit more compact, and then loosen it up again on the top. Perfect, one done. As you can see on the mustard green, this one is a little bit more root bound and it's actually taken the shape of the pot itself. So I'm just going to slowly tease that open. Alright, and that's our first container planted. There are some things to bear in mind when you are choosing the plants that you want. I think the first thing that you need to remember as a new gardener, or even as an old gardener, is to plant the things that you eat. There's no point in growing something if you're not going to physically make use of it. Now, if you were staying in a complex or in a small apartment, this is definitely a good way to start gardening because it allows you the ability to move your pots around, and in doing so you can shift them so that they get the best sun that they possibly can. So both of these plants require full sun to grow, even though they are both tolerant of being in the shade. So full sun generally means that they need at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight a day. I'd say you could probably get away with 4 to 6 hours on these particular plants. So just bear that in mind where you put your pots on your actual patio itself. Right, as far as shop board starts go, it is a fantastic way to start because it's instant. However, it is not the only method. You can also start your own seeds, which we're going to do. I'm going to show you how we do it when we've started our own seeds in the next container. I'm going to start again with the same method, just filling it up with compost, and we'll go from there. I do have a feverfew plant growing in here that I'm going to keep, so my next 2 plants will probably go in this general vicinity and we'll space them out a little bit. for this particular container, I'm actually going to plant greens in, things that myself and Duncan like to eat. And I'm going to start off with planting a few Swiss chards into this pot. I'm going to plant 3. So these are the seeds we started together not too long ago. It has broccoli and cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and then the Swiss chard. I do have a few plants that are growing multiples in a cell. That is the cell I'm going to start with. I'm just going to take a fork, stick it into the sand here, and pop out my seedling. So now I've got my Swiss chard, and I'm just going to dig 3 holes. These are forward hook Swiss giants, and they do tend to get quite large. But in container gardening, essentially, because they only have a certain amount of space to grow in, it is quite easy to stunt things. And they won't grow as large. So the more you plant in the container, the less likely they are to fill out, unfortunately. But since we eat this as a cut and come again kind of crop, not the end of the world. Alright. And then that is our Swiss chard. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go around and I'm going to just pinch off using my fingers the leaves at the bottom of the plant that touch the soil without damaging the central crown, because that's where all the growth stems from. And just like that, we've got some Swiss chard planted. We like Swiss chard, we eat a lot of spinach in our house, and it's one of those vegetables that produces fairly well. Now the nice thing about this is the Swiss chard and the mustard greens we've just planted actually pair really well, and they're great for stir fries. So when I say cut and come again, I'll actually take you to the garden and show you what I mean by that. It just means that your spinach will perpetually produce for you if you are careful about how you harvest. As you can see here, I've actually lined my garden bed with pots so that they increase my growing space. On this end here I have mint, and in this pot I have oregano and some thyme on the end. I'm actually going to just go through and neaten those up and put a fresh layer of compost in for both of those pots. And this pot that Mary is so kindly digging in, in this pot over here, I'm going to plant some chicory that we planted from seed, and they are a cabbage-like vegetable, and you can also eat their roots and turn that into a coffee substitute, apparently. I'm not really 100% sure how that works, so I'm just gonna get to work. Hey guys, so it's about 11 o'clock here, and it is getting to the hottest part of the day, so I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break from planting at the moment and going in to do some chores there, and I'll meet back up with you out here a little bit later where we can continue gardening. Once I was done with lunch, I did indeed return to the garden. Here you can see that I'm planting out some Brussels sprouts. Unfortunately, I didn't record an ending to this video, so thank you for joining me on this journey. I had a lot of fun in the garden with you today. I hope you enjoyed yourself. Have a fantastic evening. Bye.